Nambucca eggs. As has been made very clear by many speakers tonight, including Paul, the obvious answer to the question, is there anything to celebrate in '88? The obvious answer is no for Aboriginal people. Having said that, the next question is, what should Aboriginal people do in '88? Well, I think it's important to remind the current federal government, who may or may not be in power in '88, that unless they do something decisive very soon to grant Aboriginal people the fundamental demand throughout Australia, which is for land rights in the form that the Aboriginal people want them, then Aboriginal people are in a very strong position to ruin the little birthday party in '88. I'd remind Mr Holding and Mr Hawke, Mr Holding in particular, seeing how when he became Minister for Aboriginal Affairs, he said he wanted to go down in history as the man who solved the problem. Well, Mr Holding, you go down in history all right, mate, but not for the reason that you think. But I'd remind both Mr Hawke and Mr Holding that in 1972, Aboriginal people were the #1 issue in the 1972 election campaign. They were the most important issue. Mr Gough Whitlam, the leader of the opposition then, made it very clear when he became Prime Minister that his government would be judged historically on how or what they did to solve the injustice confronting Aboriginal people. Unfortunately, Mr Fraser ruined that little plan. But the reason Aborigines were #1 election issue in '72 wasn't because the Labor Party suddenly felt that it was very important to make Aborigines an important issue. It was an important issue because of the Aboriginal Embassy in '72, because Aboriginal people came from all over Australia to make their point very effectively before the eyes of the world, and we severely embarrassed the Australian government and the Australian opposition of the time. Now, in 1988, Aboriginal people are going to be in a much more powerful position to ruin the birthday party unless we get justice. In the past 10 years, there has been numerous Aboriginal groups have established contact with international groups, have begun the campaign of international consciousness raising. We are no longer the little isolated group we were in '72. In 1988, it's not only going to be us, it's going to be the third world, it's going to be numerous progressive supporters throughout the Western world and the numerous supporters of Aboriginal people, progressive people within the Australian community. We can make a lot of trouble, Mr Hawke, and you need to know that we will make trouble unless Aboriginal people have justice in the form of land rights in '88. Nothing less.